If you've seen a surgeon for a cervical disc herniation, then you know that feeling of being on a conveyor belt. No, I don't mean being on a conveyor belt when you are sitting in the waiting room, because that's not speedy, but I mean the conveyor belt feeling whenever you are actually in the office with the surgeon. They look at your MRI for about 30 seconds after you've been sitting in the room for an hour, and they go, yeah, you need your neck fused, or you're going to need a disc replacement. And I don't know, maybe I'm the bad doctor, but after 10 seconds, I pretty much know your name. That's it. I don't know what's going on with you, I don't know your symptoms, I don't know how it started. So why do they feel so confident in telling you that you need an irreversible procedure in just 10 seconds? Well, I hate to say this, but at the end of the day, surgery is a business. So if you have a cervical disc herniation on your MRI, they are going to be more than happy to cut you open and get that taken care of. Now look, don't get me wrong, surgery is phenomenal, especially in cases of trauma. I mean, it definitely saves lives left and right every day, but the thing is, when it is misused, what we end up developing are a lot more problems secondary to the surgery, rather than leaving the initial problem alone to heal naturally, which in most cases counts for 95% of disc herniations. And that's why, before you just go ahead and agree to have them cut you open and fuse your neck together, I want you to ask 3 questions, at least 3 questions, to make sure that surgery is in fact the right answer for your problem. But let's just say that surgery really isn't your cup of tea, and you would rather do a more conservative route for treatment. Go down into the description and look at the free first module to the Disc Recovery Blueprint. There I'm going to be walking you through the signs and symptoms that you probably do in fact have a cervical disc herniation. We'll go through other symptoms that would suggest you do need further serious medical intervention, but then finally we're going to wrap it all up and give you 3 exercises that can help kickstart your path to recovery today. But just in case you aren't getting good results from that free exercise kit, here are 3 questions you should ask your surgeon before you have them operate. To me, one of the most important questions you're going to have to ask, and it should just be given to you, is this an acute injury, meaning it is a squishy disc injury, or is it more of a chronic problem, where we might start seeing bone spurs in your neck? Now, why this is important goes back to what we've talked about in previous videos. Squishy injuries, acute injuries, normally are going to heal up on their own within 3 to 6 months. And I definitely get it. You're in pain, your arm might be going numb, you're having a hard time sleeping. I've had disc herniations before. It's not fun, and in the moment, I definitely wanted to get out of that pain as quick as possible. And since you're in pain, you're normally not thinking straight. So in your mind, you go, all right, the surgery's in 3 weeks, we can have this done, and then I'll be feeling better. But that's not how it works. You go 3 weeks, you have the surgery, and now you still have swelling, you still have a surgical scar in your neck, and you probably still have 6 to 8 weeks ahead of you of PT and pain before you're going to have a decrease in range of motion if your neck was fused, or you're going to have an increased likelihood of arthritis if that disc was removed. But we'll get more into that later. The second thing where it would be problematic is if this is more of a chronic ongoing injury, in which case we would have a bone spur. Now, bone spurs are your body's natural attempt at trying to stabilize a vertebra, which is kind of cool when you think about it. They say, hey, this section is moving a lot, the ligaments that are supposed to hold it here in place aren't that stable, so we're going to reinforce that area with the hardest thing that we can put in your body, which is more calcium or bone. But that becomes a problem when the bone starts digging into a nerve or other soft tissue. And unlike a squishy disc, bone can't be reabsorbed by your body's immune system. So even if you remove the irritant creating that calcification, that bone spur is going to stay there, unless it's surgically removed. And I hate saying that, but it's a relatively straightforward surgery where they would just cut, crack that thing off, file it down, and you're good to go. The second question we're going to ask comes down to joint motion, because as you can see from this skeletal model, is that in between each of these vertebrae is a little squishy disc, and that disc is there to help protect you against arthritis. But The other thing that protects you against arthritis is that each one of these segments can move independently. But when you fuse two segments together, or you take this disc out, not only will this wear out sooner, but that decreased motion of each individual vertebra is then going to be moved to the joint above and below it. This is something I actually do hate about surgery, because when you have a successful surgery by books, it just means that they managed to get all the hardware in there and there weren't any complications. That doesn't mean you're in less pain. That doesn't mean that you're not going to have problems down the road. It basically just means no one accidentally left their cell phone in you and you survived. And in the case of a spinal fusion or a disc removal, what becomes problematic is the fact that they're telling you it's a successful surgery, but they aren't telling you that in 5 to 10 years, you're going to have arthritis in the joints above or below the section that they just worked on. And you're going to go back because it worked so well the last time. You got 5 or 10 years without any issues, so now something else must be wrong. That in no way, shape, or form could be related to the fact that part of your back isn't moving, and now another part of your back has to compensate. But the real kicker is that whenever you get those next two sections fused, the next sections wear out even faster, because now a larger portion of your spine isn't moving. And the cycle just goes on and on and on until you're out of things to fuse, or you're too old to safely perform surgery and you might not survive. And I'm not even saying this to be dramatic, because I've had family members who've been through this. So, unfortunate disclaimer, success does not mean pain-free. But we're not done. No, of course we're not done, because we still have bad things to talk about. And one of those last things is the symptom mismatch. And the symptom mismatch is one of the most unfortunate things that could happen to you going into a surgical consultation. Because frankly, you are the patient. You shouldn't have to know this stuff. But if you're not your own advocate, unfortunately anymore, like I said, they're only talking to you for 30 seconds. They aren't really giving this thing a good look over or a good second thought. So let's just say that you have a cervical disc herniation at the C6 level. And C6 herniations are normally going to show up as numbness and tingling in your pointer finger and thumb. You might have a little bit of bleed over into your middle finger or further up in the forearm, but that is predominantly where you should have symptoms. But you don't have those symptoms. You have pinky numbness and maybe a little bit of weakness in your tricep. Which means, unless something else is going on that's not on the MRI, that disc bulge at C6 really doesn't have anything to do with your symptoms. Now, in all seriousness, I don't think any surgeon does this intentionally to falsely lead you into a surgery. Truth be told, while imaging is nice to have, a lot of the time it doesn't match up with your presentation. People can have no symptoms at all and have plenty of disc herniations. People can have no disc herniations and have a lot of symptoms that replicate what a disc herniation presents as. It's definitely one of the more frustrating aspects of practice, but it's also very frustrating for you as a patient when your symptoms and the treatment that they are prescribing don't match up. And the worst part is whenever you wake up from surgery and you still have the same problems, plus a surgical scar, and now you go off in metal detectors. I don't actually think that's true anymore. I don't think titanium sets off metal detector. It's not important. What is important is that you, as the patient, know what questions to ask your surgeon. Ask them how the image of your MRI correlates to your symptoms. Have them talk you through it. And it might be difficult when you don't know medical terminology, but if they can talk you through their reasoning and you can look that up later and make sure it all makes sense, or at least consult with another physician about it, then it gives you a better chance of avoiding a surgical failure because post-surgery, you still have symptoms. Don't be afraid to ask them, what is the likelihood of you experiencing arthritic conditions after having this fusion? Especially if you're still working or you have an intense history of calcium deposits, so you're more prone to develop arthritis. Because if that's the case and you're gonna heal up from a cervical disc herniation on your own in 3 to 6 months, why add a piece of hardware that's gonna make your life irreversibly hellish in 5 to 10 years? And then finally, just ask, is this an acute injury or a chronic injury? Is the pain just coming from the squishy disc herniating, or is my pain coming from a bone spur that needs to be removed? Now, the three answers you get aren't going to give you a definitive answer as to whether or not surgery is for you. But at the very least, they should give you a sense as to whether or not a conservative treatment is worth at least attempting before you go into surgical intervention. And now, yes, of course, if you are in the Pittsburgh area and would want to stop into the office, feel free, go down into the description. There is a link to the schedule. However, I also realize that there are a lot of you that are not in the Pittsburgh area, which is why I'm happy to offer that free kickstart module for the cervical disc herniation blueprint. Because if you can spend 10 minutes for absolutely nothing to realize that, hey, this can be treated conservatively and I don't have to worry about negative long-term side effects from the treatment, then you're more likely to realize you don't need a surgery and you can recover fully and safely on your own. Well, not completely on your own. I mean, you should probably still use a PT or a chiropractor. Which is why I'm here, guys. Check out the rest of the YouTube channel for helpful tips and hints for cervical disc herniations or whiplash injuries or any other issues you might be going through. Also, if you do try out that free module and it is helping alleviate your symptoms, check out the whole program because it'll still be less than what you'd more than likely be spending for your emergency room copay. And in that, you're getting a full 45-day program that is led by me day by day, taking you through the exact same procedure I would be taking someone through here at the office. Now, this isn't to diagnose or treat a specific disc herniation, but if it prevents you from getting an unneeded surgery, I'm happy. And with that, guys, I'm Dr. Beck. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video helps you to have a more fruitful conversation with your surgical consult. And I'm also hoping that the exercises that are in that free video down in the description help you to make the most of your one life.